Hi, good morning, welcome. This is Imogen with Body Intelligence, and I'm joined again by my good friend, client, and guest today, trauma awareness activist Shay Seaborne. We've been having a series of discussions, if you've not joined us before, talking about trauma and stress and my body intelligence work and the principles of the Alexander technique and neurobiology, and really kind of putting to the public things that Shay has made connections to through her work with me and neurobiology and all that stuff that we get very excited about. Right, Shay?
Nerdy things that excite us.
Yeah. So today we're talking about interpersonal neurobiology and the importance of having healthy interpersonal social connections with other people, and that's really important for our for our general well-being and health, right? And a phrase you like to use, which is true, that this is a biological imperative, and helps us deal with the stresses of life, and even helps us heal from trauma or be on that healing path, right? So maybe we can start with what is interpersonal neurobiology.
It's a mouthful. So aficionados call it IPNB, and it is a field of study. Right, it's easier.
That sounds even more.
It's a field of study that brings together all the other scientific disciplines to illustrate how the mind, brain, and relationships integrate to alter one another. Which sounds pretty woo-woo on the surface. And basically what it is how we connect with each other through the neurons that perceive what your intention is, what you're feeling inside your inner state, and even can maybe predict what your behavior might be based on that.
So this isn't necessarily the words people are saying, although that could be a part of it. It's more of what are you picking up from their posture, their the tension level in their body, all sorts of but the tone, maybe the tone of their voice more than the words that they're saying, things like that, right? And all sorts on a very, very kind of micro level that we wouldn't be able to maybe consciously say what those things are. Is that?
Yeah, so unless you've studied it a lot and have the time to take it all apart, you would just intuit these things. You would feel them with the receptors in your body, including your heart brain and your gut brain through the vagus nerve, which are constantly scanning, using your body to scan the environment for threat.
Right. So does this connect with this concept I hear about a lot of mirror neurons?
Yes. Yeah. Those are the neurons that allow us to see each other's nervous systems.
And am I correct in that we will often mirror other people if we're not conscious of it, right?
Yes, we all unconsciously, like you even body language, if you've been there talking to someone and they do this, and then you notice, oh, I'm doing that too. You don't know why, but that's why you're actually attuned to them and showing them that you're in tune with them. And we do these kind of things all the time without thinking about it. So having an awareness of it can increase not only our appreciation, but the quality of the interactions and even the quality of the relationship.
Yeah. So my next question was going to be, how can we cultivate this skill, if you want, but this in ourselves, this awareness? And I, not to preempt you, but I mean, I'm already I already know how Alexander technique has helped me be more aware of what's going on in me, how I respond to other people, and having some agency then over how I kind of continue to respond. That I don't necessarily need to go along with their tension or anger,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah, that's a really
it's not always easy, but
no.
but with awareness, we've got at least more agency.
Yes, and that's really important. You bring up a really important point. I think we had talked before about calling it interpersonal neurobiology gone bad. A great TV show. All the goober moves we make, all on TV. It would be so fun. Um, so yes, we can easily, if without being conscious, be railroaded into having a disrupted nervous system, a dysregulated nervous system by subconsciously and naturally co-regulating with somebody who's already there.
Right. And so that's great if the other person is in a beautifully easy, calm, warm, positive state, but not so great if they're not, if they're all stressed out or angry or
I like to use
tense about.
I like to use the analogy of dancing together, because that illustrates it so well. When two people dance well together, they're reading each other's signals. They're communicating on all these levels to not step on each other's feet, collide, move the wrong way, pull each other over. And that's pretty much what interpersonal neurobiology is. And dancing excitedly is definitely a way that we want to communicate with each other. But then we also need to be able to bring ourselves back to that calmer state that's good for our bodies to be in most of the time. So,
and I'm loving this dance analogy, because I'm thinking for really truly beautiful dance partners dancing together, they're really tuned in, but they're helping each other. There's a flow and a back and forth that's really, I mean, when we see it, we recognize it because it's just beautiful and flowing and easy.
And just watching that makes us feel like
yes, because we're also receiving it. Yeah, exactly.
Basically, Dr. Dan Siegel calls interpersonal neurobiology energy and information flow.
I like that. So dancing is a great kind of example for people to understand, but can you give us an example from your own life, how a really positive interpersonal neurobiological relationship, I don't know, how really positive it is a mouthful. Interpersonal neurobiology is helping you.
Yes, I'm extremely lucky to be working with a doctor who gets the nerdy terminology and can be open enough to understand this stuff and is excited about it with me. And so our interactions have, for me, become almost an experiment in interpersonal neurobiology to see how really the relationship between us in what Dr. Siegel calls the space of possibility, the plane of open possibility, has changed my brain for better, and it's changing my other relationships. This is somebody who I've spent 7 months working with intensely to help resolve the puzzle of my conditions. So it's been very much teamwork, unlike with most other providers where, they tell you what to do and you do it or don't. And we had to work through some difficulties. And I think that was part of it, that we both valued the connection enough to keep working through those difficulties, and that strengthened the connection. So recently I had a procedure that I normally have in the office in the surgical center, because we added something to it. And that was a whole other level of healthcare.
And a much more potentially triggering stressful situation environment for you to be in, right?
Yeah,
So,
especially because I have medical PTSD from trauma in a hospital operating room. So yeah, it was a big leap of faith for me to trust my doctor enough
mm-hmm.
to do this. And it was really hard to go in there, but amazingly, once I was in the OR with him, where he's the most comfortable, he says, that's my place. I love being in there. And he was happy to have my music on. And he had told the staff, just be as nice as you can, because they didn't know how they could, handle being good enough to take care of somebody with all my conditions. And he said, I saw them being nicer than they ever were. And we changed the hospital by doing that. And it was because he felt safe there. I felt safe with him. And I noticed as soon as we got settled in there, my nervous system just calmed down, because I was, I couldn't see him because he was over here doing his thing, but I could feel him and hear him, and he was talking to me, and everybody was just so kind that I was able to stay embodied and present in a setting that normally would have, sent me through the roof. So it was just such a triumph.
Well, what I'm thinking that in any sort of medical situation, right, for anyone, we want it to be as successful as possible, when we have any sort of procedure. And it seems to me that this is setting it up just at a purely kind of practical level for success. If our body's not in an extremely stressed state, we can receive treatments much more readily. And if our doctors aren't really stressed, they're more likely to perform, procedures accurately and effectively. So there's all sorts of knock-on benefits.
Yes, you're actually reminding me of the IPNB gone bad with the same doctor early on. For my second treatment with him, I was extremely dysregulated and had been for weeks, and came in and janked up the whole office.
So unfortunately, they unconsciously co-regulated with you, who were in a heightened stress response.
Yeah.
Whereas if, say, the whole office had been more informed, and they could have recognized it and calmed their own nervous systems, and how that would have then
right. Then I could have attuned to their nervous systems, and that would have helped me. And that's really, the main treatment that I needed. The procedure is important for sure, but what I really need to build a healthy nervous system is other calm nervous systems around me. So yeah, I janked up the whole office, and the procedure badly, and it didn't have the same effect, and it hurt a lot more and caused more damage to my tissue. So we all had a really big object lesson in what that can do.
That's really interesting. And I'm thinking even more why and how Alexander technique and our work together, how this helps you in this area, and how maybe it's why one of the reasons you chose to continue to work with me, because of that interpersonal neurobiology, that maybe that wasn't a formed part of the choice originally.
Oh yeah, definitely. From the second I walked into your house, I felt comfortable with you. During our first session, as comfortable as I could, considering how messed up I was at the time. And yeah, that informed my continuing, and I could feel how the practice, especially with you, I think in a way, your practicing with you helps teach my nervous system what calm parents should have taught it a long time ago, how to self-regulate. And that's how we learn to self-regulate, through co-regulation with our care providers. Well, I didn't have that, and I got you now.
Well, I mean, for me, this is what personally is brilliant about being an Alexander Technique teacher, is because it's my job to basically calm my own nervous system to work with another person, because I cannot calm theirs, if we're putting it in those terms. I cannot help you calm your own nervous system. I'm not doing that for myself. And that's the beauty of what you were saying, like in the office, when you went to the operating room and everyone had been under that was helping all of them.
Yes.
Be
Yeah.
in a, you know, better.
In a state they'd probably never been in an OR, or maybe on their first day or something, when things hadn't gotten, so crazy.
Or it may be something that kind of happens accidentally because, one of them's in a really good mood because something really wonderful's happened and it sort of spreads around the room. But this was consciously brought about. But I'm guessing, once you kind of bring it up, once you bring that to it, it kind of feeds itself.
Yeah, I could feel that in the room. And, there were some mistakes. Everybody knew, they should explain to me first before they do something. And there was one point where somebody goes, okay, this is going to hurt. And I'm like, and it did. I was like, it would help if you told me in advance. Just tell me what you're doing in advance. That would help. Yeah. And yet it was not a big deal, because I felt already safe. And I felt like everybody in there was invested in being as kind as they could. And so a little mistake like that was just a mistake. It wasn't something traumatic or horribly painful. And I came out of there feeling actually healed some.
Oh, that's wonderful. I really like what you said about, because we're human, we're not going to have a beautifully calm, positive nervous system all the time, however much we might want to. But if we've created a setting where that's our intent, the blips don't matter as much, and they're not harmful in the way they could be if the whole thing was, All right, where are we? I'll just check my notes here.
A lot to cover.
Yeah, so we were going to just touch on how the pandemic has affected our interpersonal biology, how we connect with other people, and
obviously it has a great deal. Hugs are out, handshakes are out, lunch in a restaurant is out. So a lot of the ways that we connect socially through even at business or even with a doctor are off the table. And for a lot of people, that means they're left in the lurch. They don't know what to do they subconsciously know they need that interpersonal connection, but they don't know how to get it in a pandemic in our world. But fortunately, I like to say this is the best time ever to have a pandemic, because we have things like Zoom and where that can help us connect. Of course, we miss out on the in person, but through the phone or through video, we can still connect quite a bit and read each other and feel the feelings and recognize what's going on in the other person's nervous system. So
it's, I mean, you're in a couple of my group classes for body intelligence, and it's on Zoom. And it's really amazing. It's really quite wonderful how our nervous systems are regulating with each other, and how we can sense things. And of course, we're in a setting where we're working with that quite deliberately as well. So maybe it's heightened, but that's something you can bring, once you have a bit of awareness, you can bring to any interaction, whether it's on a screen or in person.
Or
Just because someone else appears to be, sounds tense, you can, with a little bit of practice, notice that and decide that you don't have to go along with their nervous system. And if you know enough to be able to calm yourself down, then they'll be picking that up from you. So they, may unconsciously regulate with your calmer nervous system. So it's a kind of virtuous circle, right? So,
And sometimes in that kind of a setting, especially if somebody's expressing a lot of shock or pain, we want to be with them, but not get sucked into that, to not have that in us. And Dr. Dan Siegel says there's no empathy burnout. It's unfirm boundaries. So we need to keep in mind, this is me over here, and that's you over there. And whatever I'm feeling in here is not your pain. It's my response, which is usually compassion. And we're not taught to understand what compassion feels like. I had a therapist who's like, I feel, and making all these movements. And I'm like, compassion? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right?
No, I'm thinking about our group again. And, some of you or us all are dealing with quite very difficult things. And there's something about the other people's ability in the group that we're cultivating to be with themselves and be with you, witness, and not get caught or not take on, which also then helps you. It's
a really good, like, living demonstration of interpersonal neurobiology, IPNB.
Yeah, IPNB. I haven't got that abbreviation in my head yet. So, all right, I think we better be starting to wrap things up. But how would someone start cultivating this for themselves? Come work with me.
Number one, yes.
No, but awareness. We've talked about it. But
Number one is just try to pay attention. And well, so much of working with you has helped me, just the idea of notice how you feel when you think that thought or feel that feeling. So notice how you feel when you interact with that person. Notice what you're feeling in your body. What body sensations come up for you? Do you feel tightness in your chest? Do you feel open and happy? Do you feel warmth? And try to come up with, words for those things. And if you speak them aloud, that actually helps you process them as well. Of course, you wouldn't want to sit here and go, oh, I notice, I'm feeling across the chest when I talk to Imogen. That wouldn't be too good. But if I was maybe you on a video and you weren't actually here, I could. And that would actually be a really good way. Watch a video of somebody you really like, and then watch a video of somebody you hate, and you're going to feel a very big difference right there. And then the more you do it, the more you're going to fine tune your ability to recognize how that feels.
And so recognizing is the beginning of having some choice about it. We don't always, we react for a good reason. And it could be that recognizing, like, I got to get out of here is the, how many times I felt that in the doctor's office and was afraid to actually move on it, and also, I guess an awareness can bring, is this a rational, we can feel it, and also then be able to intellectually look down, like, this is appropriate for me to be here, and I feel like running away,
flying through the wall or whatever. To be able to hold both of those is really important.
All right, so I want to just mention that I will be talking with my very good friend Miriam, who's a psychotherapist, on Monday, and it kind of relates a little bit to what we've been talking about today. Our subject is getting back out there, hope and dread as we emerge from the pandemic. So Miriam and I are doing some talks which we're on the subject of the emotional body, and So that definitely relates to what we've touched on today. Shay and I, what are we talking about next time? Maybe we don't have a
I actually, the one thing we didn't come up with today, cover today, I thought, oh, that could be a whole topic. How do we find safety in our body? What is safety and how do we find it?
Yeah, so Miriam and I have talked about this a bit, so it'd be really interesting to come about at that from another point of view.
Yeah, so, fun too.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, so that's our tentative plan. You can follow Shay. She has a great Facebook page called Trauma Aware America. Hashtag Trauma Aware America to find her posts, so you can easily find that. You can follow you on my page, but if you want to join my Body Intelligence Community Facebook group, if you're not there already, I give lots of tips and do a Thursday power pause, which helps you calm your nervous system, which will help your interpersonal neurobiology. So I think that's enough for this week. And thanks for watching, and we'll be back. Okay, thanks, Shay.
Thank you, Imogen. Always a pleasure.
Okay, bye.